After funding his home, my son texted, "I don't want you on this life-changing trip," revealed. Dave's heart raced as he stood in the kitchen, the scent of fresh coffee swirling around him. It was meant to be a day of celebration. After years of sleepless nights at the factory, he finally built a cozy home for him and his son, Jason, a place filled with hopes and dreams. But then the air turned heavy with a simple text, "I don't want you on this trip." Those 8 words felt like a punch to his gut. How could this be happening? He poured everything into Jason's future, and now a wall was rising between them. He felt that sting deep within, the doubt creeping in like a shadow. He remembered all the late nights, the cramped budget meals, all the sacrifices bolstering Jason's dreams while forgetting his own. He had hoped this trip, thanks to a scholarship, would bridge the gap, not widen it. Swallowing hard, he tried to shake the confusion. What did he do wrong? Could it be that Jason didn't want him by his side as he stepped into a brighter future? Days drifted by in tension. Conversations felt forced. Dave would seek connection over dinner, laughter lingering just outside their grasp. "Dad, please, just let me enjoy this," Jason would say, avoiding eye contact. Dave ached to understand. Was this about the trip, or was it about Jason's desire for independence? The burden of socio-economic struggles carried so much weight, and perhaps it was echoing in Jason's rejection. Then, hope flickered when Jason hesitantly suggested Dave join him after all. "Maybe it would be good for us," Jason muttered, tension still crackling in the air. Dave clung to that sliver of connection, ready to mend the bond that felt frayed. But at the last minute, Jason dismissed him again, frustration boiling over. "You just don't get it," he shouted. What was happening? In that moment of desperation, Dave next felt a spark ignite within. "This isn't just about the trip, son," he responded, his voice shaking. "Think about the walls we've built inside and out. We've fought every day for something more. You matter, our family matters." His words hung in the air, raw with emotion. They could either tackle the arduous journey ahead together, or let it rip them apart, but the words felt like a weight, heavy with meaning. The rift stood between them like a deep canyon. Could they step toward each other, or were they destined to stay on opposite sides? Just as Dave prepared to breach that chasm of unsaid emotions, his phone buzzed, an unexpected call flashing on the screen. He glanced at the number, dread washing over him. The words in his gut twisted. Whatever this was, it could change everything. What would they do now, amid shaky family ties, hopes, and dreams still unspoken? Dave's thumb hovered over the screen. The buzzing echoed in the silence of the kitchen, a harsh reminder of the fragile emotional state surrounding him. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to answer, trying to shake the tension that had become a routine in their home. "Hello," he said, his voice steady, but inside, his heart was racing. "Mr. Harvey. This is Linda from the Scholarship Committee," the voice on the other end said, crisp and clear but somehow distant. There's been a change. He felt the weight of the moment, heavy on his chest. Change? What kind of change? His mind raced back to Jason's text, the walls that felt like they expanded farther every day. "You see, Jason's application has been flagged for a review. We need to discuss an incident that occurred on campus." Her words trailed off like a cloud of uncertainty. "An incident? Is he okay?" Panic surged through him, thoughts spiraling wildly. Was this why Jason didn't want him there? Was something wrong? He could feel bile rising at the back of his throat. "Yes, he's fine, but we need to talk about some behavioral concerns that have come to our attention." Dave's grip tightened on the phone. "Behavioral concerns? What are you insinuating?" "Just come in tomorrow. We need to get things sorted quickly. It's important." The call ended, leaving Dave gripping the phone tightly, heart pounding like a drum. He turned to see Jason slumped on the couch, head buried in his hands. What could he possibly be battling? "Jason!" Dave snapped, urgency flooding his words. "We need to talk." Jason looked up, eyes glazed with frustration. What now? Linda called. They're reviewing your scholarship application because of some incident on campus. Jason's shoulders dropped, the fight draining out of him like air from a balloon. It's nothing. I can handle it. How can you say that? Dave's voice shook with emotion, the chasm between them yawning wider with every word. This is your future at stake. Don't you care? You need to be honest with me. Dad, you don't know. You don't get it. The anguish in Jason's voice cut through Dave, sharper than he anticipated. I am trying to build my life, not be in your shadow. What? This isn't about me. I'm trying to help you. The pain twisted in Dave's gut. They were in a tug-of-war, each refusing to yield ground. You just want to control everything. I need space. Jason's words hung heavy in the air. Dave stepped back, stunned. The truth hurt. He saw the young man in front of him, battling his own demons while Dave clung to the memory of his little boy. Silence settled in like a thick fog. Jason's eyes darted away, shame flickering in their depths. Look, Jason murmured finally, I didn't want you to find out like this. I'm messed up, okay? But I need to fight my own battles. Before Dave could respond, a tear slid silently down Jason's cheek. The sight shattered the walls Dave had been trying to protect his son from. This wasn't just about the trip, it was about two men struggling for understanding in their own ways. In that moment, the fear rushed away, replaced by a flicker of unity amid chaos. We don't have to fight, Jason, he said softly. We're on the same team. We can face whatever it is together. It was a step forward, a sign of hope, but they still had so much to navigate. As they stood together in the living room, two halves longing for connection, Dave felt the gravity of what loomed ahead. Could love really bridge the gap of misunderstanding, or was this just the beginning of a tougher journey? He reached for Jason's arm, placing it gently in a gesture of reassurance. The phone buzzed again, another unknown call, and both hearts clutched. The real battle was far from over. What news awaited them now? The buzzing phone shattered the fragile peace in the dimly lit room. Dave and Jason exchanged uncertain glances. Each buzz felt like a countdown, ticking louder in the silence, a reminder that the answers they sought were just a call away. It took a moment for Dave to swallow his anxiety and reach for the phone. The screen glowed with an unfamiliar number, and he hesitated, the weight of what was happening weighing heavily on his chest. Should I? Jason shrugged, but his eyes betrayed a tangle of nerves. Just answer it. Taking a breath, Dave pressed accept. Hello. His voice felt shaky, echoing the sensation of standing on the edge of a cliff. Mr. Harvey, this is Julia, from the campus counseling office, the voice said. It was calm yet firm, immediately setting a more serious tone. I'm sorry to call out of the blue, but I wanted to discuss Jason's situation with you. Situation? Dave echoed, feeling the ground shift beneath him. Yes. We've received some troubling reports regarding Jason's recent behavior. I think it's essential we talk together. What do you mean? What's happening? The room seemed to close in as Dave's heart raced again. What had Jason gotten himself into? We believe he is struggling with some emotional issues. I don't want to alarm you, but we need to address this urgently. Dave felt the air leave his lungs. His fingers tightened around the phone. Jason. He called, urgency bleeding into his voice. A shiver ran through him as Jason approached slowly, the shadows under his eyes deeper than before. What now? His voice was strained, filled with a blend of defiance and fear. Help me understand what's going on, Dave urged, trying to maintain a facade of calm, though desperation clawed at his insides. Jason took a deep breath, steeling himself. I can handle this, Dad. You don't need to worry. Dave's chest tightened. You think I don't worry? You think this doesn't keep me up at night? You're my son. I want to help. help. You don't get it, Jason snapped, frustration spilling over. This isn't about you. I need to manage my life, not have you run in and try to fix everything. Their voices clashed like thunder. The shadows danced around them, reflecting their turbulent emotions. Anger simmered beneath the surface, and yet there was a profound sadness, a feeling of loss. Jason, please. Can't we just talk? Dave's voice softened, but the plea had an edge of raw desperation. The school wouldn't he have called if it wasn't he serious. A flicker of vulnerability crossed Jason's face, a crack in his armor. I'm scared, Dad. Sometimes I don't even know why I feel this way. I thought I could push through it alone. Dave stepped forward, closing the distance between them. You don't have to push through anything alone. Let me in. You don't have to fight this battle in silence. Jason's eyes glistened, struggling with his emotions. The fight faded from his stance, leaving only confusion and hurt behind. I just didn't want to drag you down with me. Jason, we're family, Dave said softly, bridging the gap that had grown between them. You're not dragging me down. You're bringing me along. That's what family does. In a moment of palpable silence, tears welled in Jason's eyes, reflecting the sincerity of Dave's words. I don't want to fail you, you won't, Dave reassured, his heart breaking at the turmoil his son faced. Together, we can face anything. Can you trust me? Jason nodded slowly, the facade of independence beginning to crack. A sense of warmth filled the space, an understanding that even in this darkness, there was hope. But then, the phone buzzed again, a jarring reminder of the turmoil still ahead. What if we face something even harder? Jason whispered, uncertainty threading his voice. The buzzing continued, a reminder of the looming challenges, but for now, amidst the fear and uncertainty, both father and son stood quietly resolute. The real test was yet to come, and as they braced themselves, the question hung in the air, would their bond be strong enough to weather the storm? The phone fell silent, but the weight of the conversation lingered in the air. Dave and Jason stood close, the tension almost palpable. It felt like they were teetering on the edge of something monumental, both aware that the coming days could reshape their relationship. What do we do now? Jason asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dave hesitated, searching for the right words. We face this together. We get to the bottom of what's happening. Jason shook his head slowly, trying to retreat back into his shell. I don't know if I can. I'm not ready. Maybe being ready isn't what matters right now. We just need to start. I'll be right beside you. Dave put a reassuring hand on Jason's shoulder, feeling the tension under his fingers. Jason glanced up, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope. You promise you'll stay? Always, Dave replied, a vow slipping from his lips like a prayer. They both turned toward the window, watching as the soft glow of street lamps illuminated the darkened street outside. It painted a picture of a world that felt far removed from their own turmoil. A world where life continued, oblivious to the storm brewing in their home. I guess we should go to the counseling office? Jason suggested, anxiety returning to the edges of his voice. Yeah, we should. But why don't you tell me what you're feeling first? It might help to talk about it. Jason paced, his hands stuffed deep into his pockets. Things have felt overwhelming lately. School is harder than I thought. And then there's life at home. Everything just feels heavy. Like I'm trying to carry something I can't even see. Then let us lighten the load, Dave offered. You don't have to do it alone. Jason stopped, his back turned to Dave. I didn't want to disappoint you. I thought if I could just figure it out on my own. You're not a disappointment. Dave's voice trembled slightly, the fear of losing Jason creeping back in. You're human. It's okay to need help. For a long moment, Jason stood still, considering his father's words. Finally, he turned around, the uncertainty in his eyes slowly giving way to something more vulnerable. But what if I really can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? Dave took a small step closer. Strength isn't about never faltering. It's about knowing when to ask for help. You have to believe that you are enough, just as you are. Even in your weakest moments. Tears threatened to spill as Jason absorbed the heartfelt reassurance. It just feels so hard. I know it does. But think of it this way, every time you take a step forward, you're proving to yourself that you can face whatever comes your way. And I'm right here with you. Jason nodded slowly, a flicker of resilience igniting within. Okay, let us do it then. Together. Just as Dave's heart began to swell with pride, the phone buzzed again, this time vibrating across the table like an urgent heartbeat. What now? Jason sighed, his previous resolve wavering. It might be Julia again or someone else who knows what is going on. With a shared glance, they both understood that facing this next step together required courage. Jason took a deep breath, his eyes locking onto Dave's. Whatever it is, we're ready, he said, although doubt lingered in his tone. Right, Dave confirmed, his heart pounding in his chest, together. As Dave swiped the screen, the words from the caller echoed in his mind, each phrase swirling with unanswered questions. What lay ahead, and would this conversation seal their fates for the better or worse? The moment hung heavy in the atmosphere, pregnant with possibilities. Both father and son braced themselves, ready to confront whatever awaited on the other end of the line. Would this be the moment everything changed? Dave pressed his thumb against the screen, the weight of anticipation pressing down on him like a lead blanket. The caller ID flickered, illuminating Julia's name, and suddenly, the walls felt like they were closing in. Answer it, Jason urged, his eyes wide, betraying a storm of emotions. Taking a deep breath, Dave nodded. Here goes nothing. He hit the answer button, and the call connected with a crackle. Dave? Julia's voice was shaky, barely above a whisper. Yeah, it's me. What is going on? Can we talk? In person? It's important. Jason's breath hitched as he clenched his fists, the tension coiling tighter between them. Sure, where? Dave asked, trying to keep his tone steady despite the nerves bubbling in his stomach. Meet me at the diner in 30 minutes. There was a pause, like Julia was searching for the right words. Please, and bring Jason. What is this about? Dave pressed, fear pulsing through him, another pause, longer this time. You need to hear it from me. I can't explain over the phone. Dave's heart raced as he exchanged looks with Jason, whose mouth was set in a thin line of apprehension. After confirming the details and hanging up, Dave felt the air shift between them. Dad, Jason started, his voice hesitant. What do you think she wants? I don't know. Dave tried to maintain composure, but anxiety dripped into his words. But it can't be good. We need to face it, no matter what. Jason's fingers wiggled nervously, his internal conflict evident. What if it's something I don't want to hear? Then we'll handle it. Together. His son fell silent, staring off into the distance as a wave of uncertainty washed over him. Dave could see the threads of fear weaving through Jason's thoughts. It mirrored his own worries, but he had to be strong for both of them. As they gathered their things, Dave felt that familiar surge of protectiveness. He needed Jason to know that he wasn't alone in this, no matter how heavy the secrets waiting for them might be. When they stepped into the cool night air, Jason's shoulders were hunched as if trying to retreat back into himself. Dave reached out, giving him a gentle nudge. One step at a time, all right? Yeah, Jason said, his voice barely audible. They drew nearer to the diner, the flickering neon lights casting a cold glow. Inside, the chatter of voices and clattering silverware filled the air, somehow both welcoming and daunting. Let us not dwell on the what-ifs, Dave encouraged, trying to lift the weight of dread. Focus on what we can do. Right, Jason replied, though his eyes still reflected a deep-seated fear. As they stepped through the door, the warm atmosphere enveloped them, but the tension didn't dissipate. They spotted Julia in a booth, her face tight with worry. "Hey," she greeted, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hey," Dave said, sliding into the booth beside Jason. Julia glanced at Jason, then back at Dave. "Thanks for coming, I know this is hard." At that moment, the heaviness of their situation settled around them like an invisible cloak. Dave could see Jason's unease magnified with each of Julia's words, and he instinctively placed a hand on his son's back. "Just tell us what you need to," Dave urged, his heart suspended in anxious anticipation. Julia took a deep breath, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "It's about your trip, Jason." Jason's breathing quickened, confusion written all over his face. "What do you mean?" A moment's silence stretched out, each second pulling tighter on Dave's chest like a vice. "I don't want you to go," Julia finally blurted out, her voice trembling. Dave's heart sank as Jason's expression shifted, the uncertainty replaced by something darker. "Why?" Jason asked, his voice strong despite the tremble beneath it. In that moment, Dave knew the next words out of Julia's mouth could either heal or break everything they'd been trying to piece together. "Because there's more you don't know about the risks involved. Whatever came next would force them to confront the depths of their fears. Would they be able to withstand the truths uncovered, or would it tear them apart instead?" Julia swallowed hard, the weight of her own words pressing down on her. The silence hung heavy, punctuated only by the distant clanging of dishes and the chatter of patrons who seemed wholly unaware of the storm brewing in their small booth. "Risks?" Jason echoed, his voice rising slightly, an edge of disbelief coming through. "What do you mean? It's just a trip, right? Something I've been looking forward to my whole life." His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles turning white. Dave watched his son's confusion morph into hurt, an ache spreading through him. How do you soften the blow of something so heavy? He wished he could wrap Jason in a protective bubble, shield him from everything that felt like it was threatening to unravel. "Jason," Julia spoke again, her voice thin but firm. "I never wanted to be the one to tell you this, but there's information I've been keeping to myself. You have to understand that I care about you. I'm only looking out for your safety." Dave leaned forward, sensing the tension in Jason's shoulders. "You need to explain, Julia. You can't just drop a bomb like that and leave us in the dark." Julia's breath hitched, and for a brief moment, Dave saw a flicker of vulnerability. "There are rumors about the area you're going to. Some students have gotten into trouble. There's talk of risks no one's considering. And it's not just the usual, it's serious." "Serious how?" Jason's voice cracked, dread creeping into his tone. Julia wrung her hands, the movement small but filled with urgency. "Some people are going missing. Others are getting hurt or worse." The last word hung like a dark shadow, casting its gloom over the table. Jason looked at Julia, disbelief etched on his face. "That can't be true. People are going there every year. It's supposed to be amazing." "I know," Julia said softly, her eyes shimmering with tears. "That's what drew you in, right? It draws everyone in. But as your mother I need you to understand how much I worry. I'm scared, Jason." His heart raced as the weight of Julia's words sunk in. Dave could see Jason grappling with a whirlwind of emotions: anger, fear, disappointment, and it shattered his heart to watch. "That's why you wanted me to stay?" Jason asked, his voice lowering, almost a whisper now. "Because of rumors? Because of fear? Don't let paranoia take away my chance to live, Julia. Do you really think I'd be willing to take that risk without being careful?" "Jason, please," Julia implored, reaching over the table, her fingers brushing against his hand. "I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I just want you to be aware. I love you too much to sit back and pretend everything is fine." In that moment, the air shifted again. The diner around them continued its rhythm, oblivious to the tidal waves crashing beneath their surface. Jason's expression morphed, and for the first time, it was mixed with understanding as he realized that love, though scary and limiting, came from the deepest places of concern. Dave felt tears prick at his own eyes. This was a conversation that could alter everything for them. Whatever you decide, know that we're in this together. It's about your safety, but it's also about your dreams. It's your life, Jason. Jason's gaze darted back and forth between his father and Julia, emotions still warring within him. But what if I miss out? What if I let fear control my future? I don't want fear to dictate your choices either, Dave responded. But the truth might help you make a better choice moving forward. Julia squeezed Jason's hand, offering a strength he desperately needed. Just think about it. Talk to us. Let us find a solution together. Jason pulled his hand away, frustration boiling over. That's easy for you both to say. You're not the ones walking away from the biggest experience of your life. The words ignited a silence that echoed through their booth. Dave's heart sank, knowing the confrontation had only just begun. What if, Julia began softly, what if we consider postponing the trip to gather more information? To see if the fears hold. Any truth? Dave shifted uneasily. Would Jason see it as a lifeline or a betrayal? Jason looked away, the sparks of conflict flashing in his eyes, and then finally muttering, I need time. Let me think. But as he sat in that moment of tension, Dave couldn't help but wonder, was this discussion a bridge they could cross together, or the beginning of a much deeper rift? What if fear led to more questions than answers? And would they be able to navigate this storm, or would it tear them apart for good? Jason stared blankly at the chipped vinyl table, the edge of his plate glimmering under the fluorescent lights. The usual buzz and laughter of the diner faded into a dull roar, every laugh and clink a reminder of the chasm growing between him and the two people he cared about most. He had spent months dreaming about this trip, mapping out all the amazing things he'd experience. Now, with a few words, those dreams were tangled in doubt. Julia's heart raced, watching Jason struggle. I don't want to ruin anything for you, she whispered, desperation threading her voice. But I'd never forgive myself if something happened and I didn't say anything. We can't live our lives in fear. Jason shot back, eyes flashing with frustration. What kind of life is that? Dave intervened, an attempt to calm the storm. Listen, son. Risk is a part of life. But so is caution. It's about finding the balance. We just want you to make informed choices. Jason pushed his chair back, the screech of it cutting through the air like a knife. Informed choices? You mean, choices based on the worst-case scenario? It's not like I'm planning to run into the woods without a map. Emerging from the booth, he felt like a balloon about to burst. He took a few steps away, breathing deeply but hardly feeling the air fill his lungs. It was suffocating. Was this how love felt, sometimes like a weight pressing down, forcing you to choose between safety and dreams? Jason, please, Julia's voice floated after him, soft yet firm. We're not against your dreams. We want you to have them. We just want to keep you safe. He turned back, hurt flashing across his face. But at what cost? I can't keep tiptoeing through my life, waiting for something bad to happen. You're going to ground me before I even take off. Maybe you need to take a step back and think about it, Dave suggested gently. He was trying not to provoke a reaction, yet it was as if every word he spoke only added more fuel to Jason's frustration. Think? You think I haven't been thinking? Every day, I've pictured myself exploring, living the adventure I've always dreamed about. Now, I'm standing here because of some unsettling rumors. Jason's voice broke on the last word, choked by a wave of mixed emotions: fear, anger, frustration, all roiling together. Julia's face crumbled with the weight of his hurt. I want you to have those experiences, Jason. I just wish you could understand how hard it is for me to let go. Suddenly, a nearby table erupted with laughter, pulling Jason's focus away for a moment. He inhaled sharply, catching the mix of aromas from nearby dishes, greasy burgers and sweet pies, a reminder that amid their chaos, life outside the booth continued undisturbed. "You think it's easy for me?" Jason replied, voice quieter now but still thick with tension. "You think I want to feel this way? Like I'm a kid who needs protecting? Because I don't. I want to be independent." "No one is saying you can't be independent. You can still chase your dreams and be smart about them." Dave finally felt his own frustration bubble over. "It's not a question of control, it's about care, son." Jason shot them both a desperate look before running a hand through his hair, raking back the frustrations that still swirled in him. This wasn't just about a trip anymore. It was about trust, the fear of losing it, and the reality of responsibility. The silence that followed sat like a heavy weight on their shoulders. Jason turned again, as if he was considering bolting for the door. Then, a thought struck him. "You want me to be informed, right? Then why don't we find out the truth together?" Julia and Dave exchanged glances filled with both hope and uncertainty. "What do you mean?" Julia asked gently, relieved but cautious. "What if I go into this with you by my side? Let us dig up these rumors and explore the reality together. I don't want to miss out, but I also don't want blinders on." Julia's heart fluttered at the thought while Dave felt the tension ease just a fraction. It was a step toward understanding, but the deeper question remained. Would the truth be enlightening or devastating? Jason took a deep breath, the tension still simmering beneath the surface. "Let us see if there's more to this story before I make my choice." But as the tension began to dissolve between them, the undercurrents of uncertainty still loomed. Would they all be ready to face what lay ahead? And if they unearthed the truth, could it be more than any of them bargained for? Jason stood in the soft glow of the diner's ambience, the flickering neon signs spilling over the window like whispers of nostalgia. His heart raced at the thought of what they might uncover. What if the rumors were true? What if the journey ahead held risks he hadn't considered? The sweat on his palms felt cold against the warm ceramic of his mug as he faced Julia and Dave, who were still processing his unexpected proposal. "So, what's the plan?" he asked, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. "Are we really going to chase down these rumors?" Julia leaned forward, her brow crinkled. "We can start by talking to some friends who might know something more. There's no harm in that." She glanced at Dave, her eyes searching for his agreement. "Yeah, that sounds reasonable," Dave replied, the hint of concern still clouding his expression. "But remember, we need to prioritize your safety. If it gets too overwhelming, we can stop." Jason's chest tightened. How many times had he heard those words? Too many. "I'm tired of safety dictating my life," he replied, biting back frustration. "Let us just find out the truth first, all right?" With a nod of mutual understanding, they settled into a plan. Over the next day, they would reach out and connect with others who had traveled the same path he longed to tread. Jason felt a renewed sense of purpose. This trip wasn't just an escape, it was a chance to rewrite the narrative of his life. To experience every moment, not in fear, but in real engagement. As they left the diner, a cool breeze met them outside, and for the first time in weeks, Jason felt anticipation bloom. It wasn't just about travel, it was about confronting what scared him and redefining it. He wanted to live fully, not just survive. Their first stop was a friend of Julia's who had ventured into the very region Jason was eager to explore. They sat in a small cafe, its rustic charm providing a contrast to the chaos within him. As they talked, Jason noticed how eager he was to absorb every piece of information. Was the travel dangerous? What were the real risks? Julia was engaged, asking questions, and Dave chimed in occasionally, trying to keep the atmosphere light. Jason listened, hanging on the edge of their conversation. The friend spoke of beautiful landscapes juxtaposed against dangers, but what captured Jason the most was the enthusiasm in her voice. "Every adventure has risks," she said with a smile, "but it's the stories after that make it all worthwhile." You learn more about yourself out there than you ever will sitting safe at home. Jason mulled over her words. Could she be right? Would taking risks actually lead him to unearth something deeper within? But then the fears nipped at his heels again. What if he stepped out and it all went horribly wrong? He glanced over at Julia and Dave. They were invested, but were they truly ready to let him fly free? Okay, he said, breaking through the uneasy silence that had settled around them. I want to know everything. I'm not backing down. But I need you both to promise me something. If we find something alarming, we confront it together. No matter what. Julia's eyes softened, a mix of pride and worry shining through. I promise, she said softly, reaching out to squeeze his hand. Dave nodded, a flicker of relief crossing his face. We can do that. But as they sat gathering the final thoughts for their next move, a text dinged on Julia's phone. She glanced at it, her smile faltering. It's from my sister, she said, voice heavy. She said they heard something else. Something worse. Jason's stomach twisted. The tension escalated like a clenched fist. What could be worse than what they had already discussed? What is it? He asked, his heart racing again. Her face paled, hands trembling slightly as she read the message. She says but Jason couldn't take it anymore. Just tell me. Okay, Julia whispered. She says people are saying people have gone missing on that trail. The air between them turned to ice, thick with unspoken fear. Jason's heart ached. How would this change everything? Would he still want to go? Before he could gather his thoughts, Julia added softly, what do we do now? Jason didn't know. But one thing was certain, he couldn't turn back now. He drew a shaky breath, knowing the path ahead was fraught with shadows. Yet, deep down, the fire of determination ignited. The truth awaited, and whatever it was, he promised himself he would face it head-on. But the real question loomed larger than ever, was he ready to confront the darker truths that might very well change everything? Jason's mind raced as he stood beside the table, the weight of Julia's words pressing down on him like an unseen hand. Missing people. It felt surreal, a dark shadow creeping into an adventure that had once sparked excitement. What do we do now? Julia repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes flickered nervously, but there was steely resolve behind her uncertainty. Jason glanced at Dave, who leaned back in his chair with a grim look, arms crossed over his chest. There was no denying the tension in the air, wrapping around them like fog in a morning forest. They had come so far from safety and comfort. Would they really turn back because of a text? We need more information, Jason replied, steadiness coating his voice. I mean, what are the chances it's just a local myth, or people exaggerating? Julia's brows knitted together. But what if it's not? What if there's truth to it? What if these missing persons weren't just accidents? Every word she spoke carved a path back to a tightening knot in Jason's stomach, but he couldn't allow fear to dictate their choices. He met her worried gaze with unyielding conviction. Then we prepare. We gather as much intel as possible, reach out to others, and maybe we find a way to go in a group. We can't treat this like a hike in the park, Dave warned, his voice laced with concern. It's not just the risk of getting lost but real danger. We need to really think this through. What is there to think? Jason shot back. If we let fear dictate our lives, we'll always wonder what could have been. We can't keep living like that. The cafe felt smaller somehow, as if they were all cocooned in their own doubts and anxieties. He could see the flickering shadows play on the walls around them. What was supposed to be a breakthrough moment now seemed like a crossroads. Julia took a deep breath and sighed, okay, I'm all in for gathering information, but I want to pretend it doesn't scare me. We don't have to take risks for the sake of it. Fair enough, Jason replied, grateful for her understanding. Let us start with the online forums. People who've been there can share their experiences, both good and bad. If someone went missing, there might be at least some chatter about it. As they got more into planning, a thrill wound through Jason. It was the kind of electric urgency he craved. Together, they spent the next hour parsing through limited information, gathering threads of anecdotal evidence. It felt exhilarating yet nerve-wracking. Could they actually do this? Eventually, they agreed to meet later in the week, allowing time for their own research. As the trio stood to leave, Jason caught a glimpse of their reflection in the cafe window. 3 silhouettes against the bustling world outside. Each of them searching for more than just adventure. Each of them wanting to break free, but with shadows hovering nearby. The ride home was filled with a tense silence, punctuated only by the sounds of the city outside. Julia stared out the window, lost in thought, while Dave leaned forward, drumming his fingers anxiously on his lap. Jason couldn't shake the feeling that the journey was about to shift dramatically. When he finally stepped into his home, the air felt thick. The darkness of his living room contrasted sharply with the little light filtering through the curtains. He tossed his bag on the couch and hesitated. The thrill he had felt earlier was now dampened by a gnawing uncertainty. Was he truly ready for the unknown? After a quick shower, Jason sank into the living room chair, staring blankly at his phone on the coffee table. It buzzed with incoming messages, a text from Julia. It simply read, "We should talk about this more, especially the missing people." He paused. The earlier excitement had all but fizzled out. What could they uncover together? But then another thought caught him off guard. Underneath the headlines of missing hikers lay imagery of families torn apart, hearts heavy with missing pieces. Jason rubbed his temples, as unease gnawed at him again. Would he stumble into something he wasn't prepared to deal with? The question lingered in the air like the scent of rain before a storm. Jason could still feel the fire of determination, but he knew the time for decisions was closing in fast. He needed to face whatever lay ahead, but more importantly, he needed to determine the price he was willing to pay for the truth. As he stared at the blank screen, his fingers hovered over the keyboard. What should he say? And then something deep inside whispered the truth he had feared to admit. He had to know if he was ready to risk everything. But right then, with doubts creeping in, the shadows at the corners of his mind flickered ominously. What if this journey led them somewhere they wouldn't all return from? The stakes had never felt higher, and Jason realized, as night enveloped the world outside, that the adventure they sought might take a turn darker than any of them had imagined. But what did that truly mean for him? Jason sat on the edge of his bed, the night air thick with anticipation. The shadows danced around him, reflecting his swirling thoughts about the trip. He felt both exhilarated and terrified at the prospect ahead. Everything had led to this point, a tightrope walk between desire and fear. He glanced at his phone again. The text from Julia had sent him into a spiral of thoughts. We should talk about this more, especially the missing people. But what was there left to say? After all the conversations, the digging into rumors, what more could they unearth? The truth was no longer just an adventure. It had taken on the weight of caution that felt almost overwhelming. Jason stepped into the living room and found Dave sitting at the kitchen table. His father's face was a mixture of resolve and worry, and it twisted Jason's heart just looking at him. "Hey," Dave said gently, lifting his eyes. "Thought I'd wait for you to talk about the trip. How are you feeling?" "Conflicted," Jason admitted, his voice barely a whisper. Considering everything they had discussed, it was a truth he couldn't deny. What if we dig too deep and find something that changes everything? "Jason," Dave started, leaning forward. "The adventure is a part of life, but so is understanding the risks. Whatever we discover, we take on together. That's what's important." Jason let out a shaky breath. He wasn't sure how to articulate his fears, those swirling doubts that felt like chains. What if we uncover something really dangerous? What if it's too much? The weight of potential outcomes crashed down upon him. "Then we face it," Dave affirmed, a warmth of certainty enveloping them. "This is about you finding your footing not just in the world, but with us too. We're on the same team." A flicker of hope ignited within Jason. The beautiful and painful reality of their family, the bonds that had become strained but never severed, rose to the surface. They had fought against walls of misunderstandings, but maybe they could also dismantle them together. You mean that? Absolutely, Dave assured him, his voice steady yet revealing the depth of emotion there. But you have to promise me one thing. Whatever you decide, don't shut us out. Let us in, even when it's scary. As Jason pondered the unyielding support in his father's words, he felt the air shift again, almost palpable. This wasn't just about the trip anymore, it was about redefining their path as a family. He reached for his phone, his heart racing as he typed out a message to Julia, "Let us meet tomorrow, all three of us. We need to talk. The truth matters." That feeling surged through him again, determination. He wasn't just stepping toward a trip. He was stepping toward freedom, into the unknown. He could practically feel the chains of doubt begin to loosen. The next day, the diner felt different. Instead of a weight, there was a sense of liberation in the air as Julia arrived, her face lighting up upon seeing both of them. "Hey, I'm really glad we're here to talk this out," she greeted, the willingness to tackle the truth shining in her eyes. Jason nodded, ready to embrace the conversation head-on. "Yeah, there's so much we've uncovered, but I think there's something deeper we need to look at too together." As they sat together, the warmth of genuine support enveloped them, each of their fears intertwining with hope. They shared stories, piecing together fragments of information, but it was the promise of unwavering support that truly cast light on their path ahead. And just as the air shifted once more, Jason leaned in, determination burning in his voice. "Whatever comes our way, we'll do it as a family. We'll be prepared to face the truth and whatever it brings." At that moment, a collective sigh filled the space around them, a release of the heavy tension they had carried for so long. As they left the diner, the sun shone brighter, bathing the world in possibility. It wasn't about stepping into the unknown, it was about stepping into it together, fearlessly, and as they walked forward, arms linked and hearts open, a new chapter awaited them, one built on trust, bravery, and the unbreakable bond of their family. Now, more than ever, they believed in the power of love to light their way through darkness. The journey was about to unfold, and whatever lay ahead, they were ready to embrace it together. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.